This week is Parshat Terumah, and we are beginning to learn about the tabernacle, the Mishkan, and one of the most important verses in maybe the whole Torah is in this week's Parsha. It says, Asuli Mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham. God says, make for me a holy place, a mikdash, a holy place, and I will dwell in their midst. So the very, very famous statement is, it doesn't say in its midst, meaning in a building, but in their midst. I will dwell in the midst of each and every person. Each and every person that opens themselves up, that will be my dwelling place. Once it's told about the Kotzker Rebbe, when he was like 5 years old, one of the big rabbis, he was already, they could see he was going to be a big neshama, a big genius. So someone asked him, and he's only 5 years old, asked him, where is God? And the Kotzker, without skipping a beat, said, wherever you let him in. That's where God is. So that's what it means. Asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham. Make for me a mikdash, and I will dwell in their midst. The general principle, and hopefully over the next many weeks, we will be exploring different aspects of the tabernacle. But the general principle is that every detail of the shape, the size, the color, the dimensions, the materials are highly, highly symbolic. And we learn levels and levels and levels of secrets of the Torah from all of these details. So because we have limited time, I picked just one aspect of the Mikdash to try to delve a little bit deeper, and that is the Menorah, the candelabra. So I'm going to show you a picture, and then we're going to come back to this picture. Let's see. Okay, this is, there we go. This is a pretty decent picture of the menorah. In a few minutes, we're going to go back and we're going to go over the details. But just so everyone has a picture in their mind that this is the menorah of the Mishkan. So the first thing, there's a question. Whose light is in the menorah? Is it God's light or is it Israel's light? There's a very similar question asked when God gives instructions for Noah to build an ark. So it says, Tzohar ta'aseh l'teva, make for yourself, and now there's two opinions. One is make for yourself a window, so to let light into the ark. The other opinion is that the Tzohar was a precious jewel that shined light out. They could both be true, actually. But it's very, very similar with the question about whose light is the light of the menorah. Is it God's light, as it were, coming from above and entering into the tabernacle, entering into us? Or is it our light that is meant to shine out to the world? So there's a midrash that discusses this. I'm going to read it for you. It says, Israel asks of God, you light the entire world and tell us to light the menorah? And as we say to God, you're the light. what does it mean that we're supposed to light the menorah? Let us see light in your light. And the Holy One replies, the little lights of your menorah are more precious to me than the lights of all of the stars that I have placed in the sky. This is the Midrash Tanchuma. So in other words, we say to God, we see the light of the menorah representing your light. And God replies, I see it as your light. So we could say, well, which one is true? So always in these kind of cases, we always say, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim. Both are correct. These and these are the words of the living God. But there is a midrash that actually puts it both together. And this is what it says. Israel is compared to the olive tree, a fresh olive, beautiful with beautiful fruit. And the Holy One is compared to a lamp, the lamp of God. Oil is placed in a lamp, and together they give light. So too does the Holy One say to Israel, because my light is your light, and your light is my light, you and I together will light the light of Zion. So that's a beautiful midrash that is putting together both of these. So in other words, the light of the menorah represents both God's light to the world and Israel's light to the world. And when you put them together, it's God's light is shining through Israel to the world. We're told that we're a nation of Kohanim. So when the Kohanim bless, so they stretch out their hands, and it's as if the light of God is coming through them to the people. So it's not one or the other, it's both together. Now, the menorah was made from one piece of gold. It's hard to imagine, but it was not put together piece by piece and soldered together. It had to be created from one block of gold. Can you imagine this block of gold? And it was chiseled out, it was carved out. So here, the menorah represents the oneness of God. And yet, the 7 branches of the menorah represent plurality. So you have both the oneness of God and the plurality of the world that God created and is continually creating. Now, Raphael Shimshon Hirsch has a beautiful explanation that what does the gold represent? There was a lot of gold in the Beit HaMikdash. There were 3 metals, gold, silver, and copper. And each one of the metals represents something different. The menorah was all gold. And gold is considered one of the hardest metals. It represents an unmovable kind of energy, an unchanging kind of energy. And yet, as we're going to see in a minute, the shape of the menorah is like a tree. It's actually referred to sometimes as a tree of life. And a tree grows, it changes. It has fruit, it has leaves, it has buds. Each season it changes. So here you have a beautiful teaching that on one hand, the menorah is all gold. The other hand, it's like a tree. It's the unmovable energy that moves everything. It's like God. There's a verse that says, Ani Hashem lo shaniti. I am God. I do not change. I have never changed. And yet, all change comes from God. All creation comes from God. So again, here we have both. We have the unmovable and that the unmovable which moves everything, symbolic in the menorah. So now that we mentioned that it's like a tree, so the height of the menorah from the bottom to the top was 18 tefachim. This is a tefach. So it was 18 high. We all know that 18 is chai, is life. So here again, we have this image of the tree of life. It's 18 tefachim high. What else is called a tree of life? The Torah itself. Eitz chaim hi l'machei zikim ba. It's a tree of life for those who hold onto it. We say that every time that we return the Torah to the ark in the synagogue. What else is called a tree of life? The sfirot. This is actually my daughter's beautiful mounted jewelry, and it is like, here's the trunk, and here are the branches and the fruit. It's called a tree of life. And a human being is called Eitz HaSadeh, a tree of the field. So this is a very, very deep idea here, that the Torah, the Sfirot, the Menorah, and a human being is all related to the image of a tree. I think we learned this last week or the week before, for those who remember, that the numerical value of tree equals 160 equals image, that we're created in the image of God. So here, of course, God has no physical image, but the fact that we say that God, the Torah, and Israel are one, so the Torah, the Sfirot, a person, and here the menorah in the temple, all represent a tree of life. Okay, so there's one other idea. Is the light in the menorah, does it represent infinite light or finite light? And the answer is both. We're told on the first day of creation, the light of the first day was hidden away and will only be revealed in the future. So many commentaries point out, it doesn't say that the light was really taken away, it was hidden. So they ask, well, where is it hidden? Where is the light of the first day, this spiritual light, this infinite light? Where is it hidden? So a number of answers are given. They're all correct. One is in the Torah itself. So when we learn Torah, which we're doing right now, we are all accessing and touching the infinite light of the first day. And we're also told that it's hidden in Shabbat. How do we see that? Especially the women who are watching, the custom of women to usher in the Shabbat by lighting candles. That's how we usher in Shabbat. And especially when a woman makes this motion, when she's lighting candles, so she's bringing this infinite light into the Shabbat. And the other place they say is in the menorah, that the menorah is a vessel for this infinite spiritual light to be shining through to the whole world. And as we said in the beginning, that God says, make for me a holy place and I will dwell in your midst. The idea was that this infinite light should enter into each and every person. And we're also told that it's in the lights of Hanukkah, because the Chanukiah represents the menorah, and that we bring into our home. So our home becomes like a mikdash, a holy tabernacle. Okay, now we're going to go back to the menorah. And remember, I made this statement that every detail of the mikdash has significance. So here I want to point out that there are 22 cups in the menorah. If you see, each of the branches had 3 cups. 1, 2, 3 times 7 is 21. And there's one more cup right here. So there's 22 cups. I'll come back and explain the significance. Then there are what are called 11 knobs. Right at the top of the cups, I hope you can see it, there's like a round knob. So here you have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there are 11 knobs. And unfortunately, in this menorah, you can't really see it, but there are 9 flowers. At the top here, there were like these small protruding flower image. So you have 7 here, you have 1 here, and 1 down here. This one doesn't show it so well, but you had 9 flowers. So now let's go back. We have 22 cups, 11 knobs, and 9 flowers. So 22 is the number of letters in the Hebrew alphabet, the 22 letters. The 9 flowers, there are 9 vowels in Hebrew. So the 22 and the 9 represent the letters and the vowels. Now remember, one of the meaning of the menorah, that there's a middle shaft, and then there's 3 on each side. The middle shaft is Shabbat, and the other 6 are the 6 days of creation. So the menorah, along with everything else that we've said so far, the number 7, of course, is highly significant, highly symbolic throughout all of Judaism. But here it definitely represents creation, and especially the middle is Shabbat. So God created the world through speech, through the 22 letters. And when you say a word, the letters wouldn't combine without the vowels. So here you have the symbolism of God speaking the world, the 7 days of creation, into existence. Now, what about the 11 knobs? So if you look at the sphirot over here, so you'll count, there are 10, but right here is a hidden one called dot. So they're really 11 sphirot. They're really 11 sphirot, even though we maintain that when we count keter, we don't count dot, and we count dot, we don't count keter. So here we have the 10 sayings or expressions through which God created the world. The first one being, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. So there are 10 expressions to which the creation comes into existence. So here we see the 22, the 11, and the 9 all have to do with creation. And of course, the 7 branches of the menorah symbolize the 7 days of creation, the 6 days of Chol and the Shabbat. But I want to go one step deeper here. we'll notice that 11 is half of 22. So there's an idea in Kabbalah. Well, first let me explain something, that along with the normative alphabet, the alphabet, there are other alphabets, more Kabbalistic alphabets. One is called At-Bash, which is the At is the first letter and the last letter. The Bash is the second letter and the second last letter. So here is a method of exchanging letters, the first letter for the last letter, the second letter for the second last letter. And there's a whole inner code happening through the entire Torah when employing this Kabbalistic alphabet. Now there's another one called Albam. Albam stands for dividing the alphabet in half. 11 and 11. Because remember, there are 22 letters. So you take the first letter of the first 11 and the first letter of the second 11, and you exchange them. Aleph for a lamed, a bet for a mem. So this is very, very Kabbalistic, but the one of the translations in Aramaic, the Targum Yerushalmi, when it translates the word Bereshit, in the beginning, it says, with wisdom, God created the heavens and the earth. In other words, it translates not as in the beginning, but with wisdom, God created. Now, the word wisdom, chachma, equals this name of this alphabet called Albam. Albam equals 73, and chachma equals 73. What do we say every morning in our morning prayers? Kulam bechachma asita. You made everything with wisdom. So one of the explanations is you made everything with this alphabet called Albam. So you might be asking yourself, well, what does this mean? What significance does it have? But there's a very, very deep understanding here. Because remember, Albam is we take the 22 letters. Here we have the 22 cups of the menorah and the 11 knobs. And this alphabet is based on 11 and 11 equals 22. But what's the significance of an alphabet that breaks the whole alphabet into two halves? So what is the first letter of the Torah? A bet. In fact, a big bet. Bet equals 2. So we're told that the reason that the Torah begins with a bet is because all of creation has the illusion of duality, of being bipolar. And if we look at the world, everything is opposites. In fact, one of the laws of science is for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That everywhere you look, there are opposites. Sometimes they're complementary, and sometimes they appear to be diametrically opposed. But the significance of the Torah beginning with a bet is the secret of this alphabet called Albam. That God made everything with wisdom. And again, the appearance of everything in the world is dualistic. Now, we know that our mission in the world is to show the oneness of God, is to take the apparent duality everything we see, everything we touch, everything is opposites. It's equal energies. And to find the unifying point. This is the secret of the Mughan David. The secret of the Mughan David is to take two opposites and find the unity. That is the secret of the Mughan David. And that is one of the secrets of the menorah. The 22 cups, the 11 knobs, and the 9 flowers. These are the expressions of through which the world is created and maintained. And going back to the idea, though, that the menorah is made out of one block of gold. So that is the unity that we're looking for in all of creation. All of creation appears to be dualistic, or like Havdalah, lahavdil ben kodesh lechol, ben or lechoshech, ben Yisrael la'amim, ben yom hashvi'i l'sheshet yemei ha'maaseh. Everything appears to be opposites, but we want to find the one unity. So now I just want to show you one last thing, a very, very beautiful thing. So again, here we have the 22 cups. Remember, these are the 21, and we have one more down here. That's the 22. We have the 9 knobs. 11 knobs. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the top of each one of theirs, 4 and 7 is 11. And then we have the flowers that appear up here, and then one over here and one over here. Now, if you add all of those together, you get 42. 12 and 11 and 9 equals 42. So it's given over that one of the secret names of God is called the name of 42 letters. And this is the secret of the prayer Ana B'Koach. Ana B'Koach that we say Friday night, some people say it every day, is in this prayer Ana B'Koach, which has 42 words, is hidden the 42 letter name of God. Now, if you take the 42 elements, I lost it here. If you take the 42 elements of the menorah, we didn't add for the 7 branches. So the 42 and the 7 equals 49. 7 times 7. And then remember, the whole idea is that the menorah is one unit. So we have 49 individual facets or elements of the menorah. So when you add 1 for the entire structure of the menorah, you get 50. And these are the 50 gates of understanding. That the light, the infinite light of God, shining through the Torah, through Shabbos, through the menorah, this represents the different facets of understanding that we try to attain in this world. We try to attain the 50 gates of understanding. So there's one last correspondence here, which is really, really very far out. Remember, we mentioned that the Torah is called a tree of life. The Sfirot are called a tree of life. The menorah is a tree of life. And a human being is a tree of life. So watch what we're going to do here. We're going to see how the human body is like a menorah. So we have, we'll call it just like a tree. We call it the trunk of the tree. We have the middle line right through all the way down. That's the middle shaft of the menorah. Now look at the face. We have one ear, one eye, and one nostril on one side, and one ear, one eye, and one nostril on the other. So we have three branches of the menorah right in the face. Now look at the arm. From the shoulder to the elbow is 1. From the elbow to the wrist is 2. From the wrist to the end of the finger is 3. So on each side, here's the middle shaft. On each side, the one arm actually is made up of 3 sections, 3 definitive sections. Now, if you look at your legs, we have from the hip to the knee to the ankle, and the ankle to the end of the foot. It's just like an arm. It has the same 3 segments. So again, we have the middle trunk, and the legs also are the 3. So this is a beautiful understanding on actually a very physical level, where we are kind of like a walking menorah. We are, we can be at least, beacons of light. That God says, make me a holy place, and I will dwell in their midst, meaning our midst, within us. So in a sense, we are the menorah, and God's light is shining into us, and then we shine it back into the world. Like we said before, whose light is the menorah? Is it God's or is it Israel's? And we answered, it's both. But it's both, in a sense, simultaneously. The more we make ourselves a vessel for God's light, the more we have light to shine out to the world. So this is some of the teachings of the menorah. I wouldn't say that we covered everything, but here are many, many things to think about. And we'll end with a bracha, and then we'll do like we always do. I will unmute everyone, and anyone who wants to ask a question or make a comment is welcome to. So a simple blessing is the words of the song that we sang in the beginning, for those who were here. Ubane Amigdash, Ir Tzion Timale, B'Sham Nashir Shir Chadash, Uberanana Na'aleh. And we should merit to see the rebuilding of the temple, and we should sing a new song. I think after a year of this pandemic, I think we're really ready for a new song, a new reality, a new revelation. And Bezrat Hashem, it will come. And hopefully we all can be proper vessels for the light of God to shine within us, and then we can shine it out to the world. Okay, so